Tonight on Cosmic Cantina, strap on your snow boots and grab a warm jacket because we're going to hike into Russia's own Roswell incident, the Dyatlov Pass. What happened to those 9 Russian hikers back in 1959? From Bigfoot to UFOs to a cursed golden statue. There are so many theories on this one. We don't have anything definitive, but we're going to speculate like no one's business. I'm your host, Melissa Tittle, and every week I go to my favorite bar, Cosmic Cantina, and kick back with my co-hosts, Josh Golombeski and Matt O'Connor. We talk about aliens, Bigfoot, ghosts, ancient cultures, and anything from the unseen world that needs a little illumination. Welcome to Cosmic Cantina. I'm your host, Melissa Tittle, and tonight I'm still drinking that gluten-free beer.
What is wrong with you?
I don't know. I think it's just because I don't want to open a bottle of wine because then I have to drink it by myself.
Oh, yeah, that's a terrible predicament to be in.
Speak for yourself. That's exactly what I've done tonight.
All right.
I'm drinking a Cab Sav. What are you drinking over there, O'Connor?
You know what? I got a busted open a little can of cider here, and I can't remember if it's the Deepin or the Dixon.
Double
what?
D's.
You get it? It's the Deepin cider or the Dixon cider.
Oh, my God.
Yeah, baby. No, it's a little... that's a little cider joke there. You can use that. Feel free to jump on that, anyone out there.
But that's not copyrighted?
No, it's not.
Oh, okay. All right.
Get into it.
Good to know.
Click on into it. Yeah, this is a little Montana cider. That's good stuff. It's got some hops in it.
Ooh.
And I'm feeling frisky.
Very nice.
Oh,
Well,
wait.
before you take the lead, I just want to say this is a very exciting,
Sorry, that's the news clip. Josh has something important to say.
very important disclosure. The disclosure movement is happening, and the latest news is exciting. The Senate Intelligence Committee has voted to require U.S. intelligence agencies and the Defense Department to compile all detailed public analysis of all data about UAPs, including intrusions recorded by Navy pilots in recent years. This is mainstream news. I think that's kind of a big deal. It's not the biggest news in the world, but it is definitely a step forward. So there is your daily dose of disclosure.
Yeah. That's cool stuff. So we're taking it.
The Pentagon blows its wad.
We have some government agencies actually taking this pretty seriously now.
Yeah,
That's
awesome. That's actually really good news, and it's pretty big, and I bet you no one will report on it. So amazing! I'm glad that we said something. All right, tonight we're gonna go to Russia, and we're gonna talk about Russia's basically the biggest government conspiracy in Russia is Dyatlov's Pass. And if you haven't heard this story, it's from 1959. We're gonna break it down, and it is wild. It's like America's JFK. It's Roswell. It's everything wrapped up. It's government conspiracy, aliens, Bigfoot,
It's everything.
supernatural crap, like sound waves, like everything. And nobody can figure out what happened. So we're going to break down this story. So I want to start off with an article in CNN that was published in 2019. Russia reopens investigation into 60-year-long Dyatlov Pass mystery. So this article... I'm just going to read a little bit from the article so you kind of get perspective. Russian prosecutors have launched a new investigation into the mysterious case of 9 students who died in a bizarre circumstances after disappearing on a skiing trip 60 years ago. Countless articles have been written about it. It happened in 1959.
There's a terrible movie that was made about it.
There's terrible movies and books written about it. Now, there's some actually good books, but there's a bad movie about it. So they opened up the investigation. So some of the people that showed up at the investigation, this is a huge thing. This is like if the government showed up at Roswell and they're like, by the way, it really was an alien. And then everyone, like it was a big media thing in Russia. So this is what it says. Nobody has so far managed to uncover solid proof of why the group has experienced, why this group of 9 hikers fled their tents in a remote camping spot while partly clothed and without footwear. Their deaths, highly unusual, have ranged from UFO government testing, natural disasters, and Bigfoot. So they had this press conference, and a spokesperson that was actually a friend of the leader, Dyatlov, that's why it's called Dyatlov's Pass. This is the guy who took all the kids through this pass. He said, a year prior to the incident, Him and I went to the subpolar mountain region where the conditions were much more difficult than his last venture. I have always characterized him as a wonderful, knowledgeable person, an athlete, always well prepared. One could always rely on him, making it impossible that he somehow got them in a bad predicament, even if it was about weather. Okay, we're going to break down the story. I'm just telling you what's in this article. So they open up the investigation. It's now 2020. So the latest conclusion of what might have happened to these 9 hikers goes something like this. So this is an article from The Atlantic. What really happened the night of February 1st, 1959? The theory put forward by the American researcher Donnie Ekar, as well as by some Russian scientists, is that a severe winds blowing over the dome of the mountain created a vortex of whirlwinds which produced a low-frequency sound that is entirely audible but vibrates hair cells in the ear, causing nausea and intense psychological discomfort. Under this onslaught in the pitch dark, the students could have been overcome by feelings of fear and panic, and they ran out into the woods and killed themselves.
We've gotten into infrasound before, and we know that some of the symptoms you feel include extreme dread. Something's watching you, lights in the sky. It's I could definitely see that sound making that behavior happen. How that sound was produced out there is really interesting. I think they call it, like, what would you say, the Kármán vortex street? It's like basically tornadoes somehow form in the wind, and they create this powerful sound, and then they also create an infrasound. Infrasound is used by tigers and whales. Dolphins use ultrasound to stun fish. And I have an interesting Bigfoot angle, but do you want to keep going before I dive into that shit?
Yeah. All right, so there's one more thing I want you to keep in mind as we're telling this story. There's just an interesting thing about this area. So this situation happened in 1959. In 1960 and 61, 2 plane crashes happened, taking the lives of 9 people. One plane crash with 9 people, another plane crash with 9 people. In 2009, 9 hikers ended up dead, different location, but still in the pass. I don't know what it is with the number 9, but it's very strange. Over the course of 60 years, people in packs of 9 have just either died or this horrible thing we're about to break down. So it's just strange.
How many were in the original group?
9.
Huh.
So what's interesting is that there were 10, and halfway through, I'm going to mispronounce all of these names because they're Russian. Halfway through, the 10th person dropped out and didn't make it to the pass. So there would have been 10, but that person just decided he didn't want to go anymore, and he dropped out.
Oh, wow. So he fucked everyone by creating the number of 9 then.
Yeah, but isn't it weird, this number of 9? Just, it's almost like a Bermuda Triangle where there's like some kind of vortex, but it takes the lives of 9 at a time. Anyway, I just want you to keep that in mind as we break down this craziness. All right, so let's break down the story. So in January of 1959, 23-year-old Igor Dyatlov led a group of 8 young Soviet hikers comprising of 7 men and 2 women. So 8 meaning plus him, so that's 9. And mostly university students into the Ural Mountains, attempting to reach Mount Orton?
Let's go with it, yeah.
Yeah, okay, all right, cool. Okay, so their campsite was made on the slopes of, I'm going to murder this one too. I'm just going to call it Dead Mountain. I'm just not going to speak in Russian, because it doesn't fit me.
The locals call it Mountain of the Dead. The Mansi, Mansi, indigenous people call it the Mountain of the Dead.
Which is strange, because as we break down the story, of all the places that they could have put their tent, they put it on Dead Mountain, or the Mountain of the Dead. So at about 3,600 feet, this is where the tent is. All the travelers, early, mid-20s, one of the guys was in his 30s, all experienced mountaineers having skied across frozen lakes, totally uninhabited areas. Like, these people, this isn't their first rodeo. Despite nasty weather and slower progress, they wrote all this in their diary, that they were still having fun, they were in good spirits. It says something, a very typical Soviet way of bonding. I don't know what that means, but they even created a little newspaper before their trip. They're super pumped. Going to Dead Mountain. One of the diary entries is titled "The Evening at Ortorten," which is that mountain I keep murdering. Which bore the headline, "From now on, we know that the snowmen exist." Ooh. It goes on to say, They can be met in the northern Urals next to Orten Mountain. So isn't that weird? This is the night before. This is the last diary entry of one of the students. From now on, we know that the snowmen exist. Who the fuck are the snowmen?
That's interesting.
Isn't that weird?
Yeah.
Ooh. Okay.
It's, and we're going to post all this stuff on our site, but there are so many pictures from, like, they took as many pictures as they could of themselves, of where they were. Like, everything's documented, right? So you see, including some of the stuff that I know that you and Matt and Josh are going to bring up with the crazy photo of maybe a snowman. But so it's like weird. It's like they went to document something. Like maybe they were these kids like having fun but like the fact that they wrote that in their journal entry is very strange. The last night before shit went crazy.
Yeah, like who told them that? Why would she come or he come to that conclusion? What's the context of that quote?
I don't know.
Yeah.
That's all that's been taken out of the diary. From now on, we know that the snowmen exist.
Wow. So either someone had to say something to them, or they saw a snowman before they went on the expedition. That's just confusing on multiple levels.
It does hint at previous knowledge of these snowmen, obviously.
Right.
So
And you know what's crazy about that? And maybe you can correct me because I know Matt and Josh, you've been a lot more into the conclusions, some of the crazy conclusions, but no one has said it's the snowmen, right? Like there hasn't been anyone, I know that there's like another name, a Russian name for the Bigfoot, but like no one has said, there's this myth or this mythology of the snowmen. So it's almost as if you wonder that guy that turned around, the 10th dude that turned around in the beginning, you wonder if they saw something and he's like, I don't want to go any further.
I'm good.
I'm all set, guys. Yeah, I don't know if, Josh, you mentioned there was the local people called the Mansi or whatever they are.
Yeah.
I wonder if they're referred to as the snowmen. I don't know. Maybe that's a term used for the local people. I don't know. Having said that, though, it's not like they didn't know the Mansi existed.
Right. Would they really call them snowmen?
Let's scratch that theory off.
Okay. So this is where all the speculations happen. So last person writes in their journal, everybody goes down for the night, takes all their clothes off, gets comfy in their sleeping bags, and then shit goes wrong, which we don't actually know what happened. Okay, so the skiers badly damaged their tent, and it was determined that it had been cut open from the inside. So something startled them, and then they cut it open from the inside, and all of their stuff was still in it. Why would and they like ran out of it. They didn't have any other winter gear on. They were barefoot. A couple people were in their underwear, barely covered, and they just left their tent in a hurry. Everybody left. They just scattered.
Yeah, so this part's interesting. So this suggests to me that either that story of the infrasound like driving people crazy and they just like forgot how to unzip a tent all of a sudden, or there was someone or something at the entrance to the tent. It's a tent. There's usually only one entrance.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's the case back in this time period in Russia, but, maybe they needed a quick exit that wasn't the usual exit, so they had to cut a hole in because something was trying to get in the one entryway. So, I don't know. That one's a tricky one.
This is where the infrasound thing is really important, where it plays. And this is where I want to connect the Bigfoot to it for a second, because one of the prevailing theories in the Bigfoot world now is that they use infrasound, which is common and used in other apex predators to scare and paralyze your prey. And it gives a sense of dread, and it does a lot of other things. So if something, it would explain if you saw a shadow of something 10 feet tall and suddenly you felt like, oh my God, I'm terrified, and you don't know why, it would cause people to suddenly panic and run out of a tent. So I think there is credence to that claim.
So this is where we just get into where the bodies are found. So it took a total of 3 months to find all the bodies, by the way. But they were found mostly about 6 miles away from their destination. Can you imagine? It's -30 in Russia, and you're barefoot, and you're wearing your underwear? Like, how long do you survive? I mean, honestly.
Yeah,
unless
you're
just
Wim
the
Hof,
fact,
not long.
yeah, exactly. Unless you're Wim Hof. I'm not sure they were into the breathing exercises. But okay, so they were found about 6 miles from their destination in a forest, almost a mile away from their campsite. without their skis, without their shoes, without coats.